So when it comes to using FreeShow, there are a lot of helpful items you can use to get you started. Now, a lot of these items are going to be free. Some of them require a subscription, but let's talk about what this is going to look like. And so, unlike other programs that may give you a easy to use interface and provide all the data and stock backgrounds and things like that that you may need, but at a very minimal level, FreeShow gives you the opportunity and option to create any backgrounds you want, whether it's video, photos, or any combination of the two, depending on how creative you are, right? So what I would say to understand is that it's very different from your past creative presentation program if you're not coming from ProPresenter, right? If you are coming from ProPresenter, then you're going to find this very convenient and comfortable, because just like in ProPresenter, you need to bring a lot of assets with you that you want to have that are customized and custom made, but it also does have access to an online library. All right. So if you've got a program that you've used, or if you made flyers or graphics or things like that, my recommendation is to go ahead and have those graphics available for you, right? So what we're looking at here is having the videos and photos, and the goal is to have them in a 16:9 aspect ratio, because if you do that, it'll fit into your screen, your monitor, your projector, whatever it is that you're using, and that's just a standard aspect ratio, okay? And this is what you see like in 4K TVs, HD TVs, and things of that sort. A lot of computer monitors are going to be in that same format, but most TV monitors in the modern day are going to absolutely be in that format. So any content that you create, whether it's going to be a backdrop that's solid or a backdrop that has stars in the background and clouds, you want to make sure it's in this aspect ratio. And here's a list of different places you can get this type of content. So one is Adobe Express. We'll talk a little bit more about that and how to navigate Adobe Express. The second one is Canva, and Canva is a lot like Adobe Express, except it's a separate subscription from any Adobe products that you may have already, whereas Adobe Express is included with some Adobe subscriptions. And then Unsplash is built into FreeShow as long as you have internet connection, along with Pixabay, which is built into the FreeShow software as well, as long as you have an internet connection. So let's look at Adobe Express first. All right. And so this is Adobe Express main page. And then if I go to my account, I just did a search here for background texture with video. All right. And so what I get is all these different options. And so we may see something like this, and notice that it is in a 16:9 aspect ratio, which is what we want. And I can say create new, and it's got an original aspect ratio, or you can do a custom size. And I'm fine with, we'll say custom size just to make sure. So it's 2560 by 2560. At least that's what it's starting with. So we want to do 1920 by 1080. And we're going to say create new file. And if we click here, you'll notice that the entirety of it is cut off just a bit. Let's see here. I want to pull this tab down. So you'll see that this is the actual video here. All right. So you can see it there. Now I want to go ahead and access this video and download it. So if I say add, let's see here, we're going to say, we're not going to add a new page. We just want to download this particular one. We'll go up to the top here where it says download, and then it's got MP4, which is best for video, audio, and animations. And then you got other options here, but none of these options are video options. And since this is a video, we're going to stick with the MP4. And then this is the actual original size. So we'll say download, and you'll see the download start. All right. While that's downloading, I want to also show you what it would look like if you were in Canva. All right. So I've got a Canva blank page here. And with Canva, if you go to your home page, you would actually start a new file or a new project, and it would come into something like this. And so this is where we want to be. We'll say, you can say create new design. And when you create new design, it's going to ask you, what do you want it to be? So you can just say YouTube thumbnail, for example, and it'll bring up a size, but you can also say custom size on the left side here. And this is where you can select your 1920 by 1080. So we say 1920 and then the height 1080. And this is just a standard HD visual project. So we'll say create new design and we'll end up here. All right. And then once you get here, you would do some searches. These are for templates. And we can also go down here to elements. And the elements is where you would do a search and you might say video background. And here's an example. We can say see all. And so I've got all these different video backgrounds. This one's pretty busy. You want something that's not going to be too busy. This one is not too bad here. So we'll click on that one. It brings it in, but it doesn't make it fill the entire screen. So you'll see this white around it. You want to make sure that you're filling the entire screen with your project or with your video. So I'm going to bring that and I'm going to stretch the corners out. And we want to make sure, let's see here, that it's filling the entire screen. So I'm stretching it out just past the screen. And I'll just kind of center it up here. And so now I've got a video here. In order to export this one, you want to click up at the top where it says share. And then when you see that, it gives you an option to download. You want to click the download button and you've got the same MP4 option. And then they've got a bunch of other print or image options. We don't want that. We want the video. So we select that and then it says to download. And it gives you an option to change the quality if you want to. So you can scale this up to be 4K. Full HD is more than enough for FreeShow. And then you can go down even further to just regular HD. All right, so we want to do HD here at 1080. We're going to download that and it'll start the process and download. You'll see the progress bar there. Let's see here. So our Adobe Express video just got downloaded. And so let's click on it. And here it is here. Now the question is, how do I get that into FreeShow? Because right now it's just opened up in my computer on QuickTime. We don't want that. So let's close that out. And let's go back to our Canva. Let's look and see how it's doing. It's doing pretty good. And it's downloaded as well. All right, so now let's go into our Finder. And let's pull this up. All right. And so the next step you're going to take is to go into your Finder window. And I'm going to pull that up here. It's going to be on my other screen. All right. So I went to my Finder, and if I go to downloads, you'll see that I've got Untitled here and Untitled Design here. These are the two designs I just downloaded. All right. They're both called Untitled, which is fine. The step that you have to take is you need to go into FreeShow and point to the folder that you want to save these into. So I'm not going to keep these in the downloads. I'm going to make another window and I'm going to drag these from my downloads folder into a place where I keep a lot of my backgrounds. And that is in my documents in a folder called YOLO Box Files. And in here, I've got video backdrops and I'm going to drag these into here. There's one and there's the other. All right, so now I've got them into this folder on my computer called YOLO Box Files. So we can close that. And now we're in FreeShow. To find those files, you would go down to Media, all right, and then just scroll down, and you would actually click in the bottom where it says New Folder, and you would actually point to the folder that you want to go to. So I would go to Documents, and then I would go to YOLO Box Files, which I already have done. All right. And then you would just say open and it'll keep everything in that folder for you, but it'll point to it. So let's go to it here. I've got it here. And we had an option or a folder called Video Backdrops. This is where I actually saved it. And so now let's look for those untitled videos. And here's one here. If I click it, you'll notice that the backdrop changes. So check that out. This is what it looks like now behind my video or behind my presentation. And that's one we just downloaded. And if I go to the other one that I downloaded, this one was from Canva, I believe. If I click that one, this is what happens to the backdrop. Okay. And so it'll play in the backdrop on FreeShow just that easily. And so that's two places that you can get your file. So we went to Adobe Express and we went to Canva. Now we can go to Unsplash or Pixabay, and those will get you images that are already built into the program's interface, I guess you could say. All right. So let's look at that together. So in FreeShow, I have access to go into the media bin down here below, and I call them drawers. So the media drawer, and you can go to this option that says online. All right. So if you don't have any backdrops currently that you want to include, you can click on online and go to Pixabay. And let's say I wanted to have something that had mountains. All right. So you can type in a search on the right and search for all these different images of mountains. And so I like this one. Let's see what that does. So when I click it, it looks like that, right? Which is pretty clean. That's a pretty nice looking mountain backdrop. I would probably say I would want to edit that. Okay. So if I go and I see that same image, I can right click on it and I can click edit. And it brings me to an edit page. And right now it's fitting to default. So I can say fit to fill, and it stretches it out to where it fills the entire screen. That's great. But then I can go into filters and I can actually make it to where it's not so bright, because I don't want it to be so bright that I can't see my white words here. So let's turn down either the opacity or the, we can turn on some blur. So we can slide this over and blur out the mountains a little bit. That softens it up. It makes it a little bit easier to see. We can, let's see here, brightness. We can turn the brightness down and you can see the mountains a little bit better, and the words pop quite a bit better. If you notice here, this is what we're looking like full screen. I really like that look, and you can tell that there are mountains back there, especially from a distance, but we blurred it out and we darkened it up a bit. All right. And that's from Pixabay. So now we can have that one. That's fine. And if I go back down into my media, and we were here working on this mountain landscape, but let's say I want to find some other mountains. Let's look in Unsplash. All right. And I do a same search. I'm in mountains. It pulls up mountains for me. And here's one that's pretty cool. I like the way that one looks there. And this one is a full on scene. Okay. If I click on this one, another cool scene there as well. Now, what you want to notice, if I go back to Pixabay and let's just pick a scene, you'll notice that it shows up and it's there, and there's no title of the author or anything like that. But when I go into Unsplash and I pick a scene, you'll notice that the photographer is going to show up there. All right. So I'm going to go back into Unsplash. I like that scene. I'm going to right click and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to use the same options I did before. So I'm going to go to it and I'm going to fill the screen with it. I want it to be full screen. I don't want to have any borders on it because it's a taller image than it is wide. So we have to adjust that. And then for filters, I'm going to go to brightness. I'm going to turn the brightness down a bit, and we're going to turn the blur up. And it gives it that pop that we want, to where it's simple, a little bit simpler, a little bit easier to read. There's a lot of contrast in it, so it's going to still be a difficult one to work with, but notice that the author is still there. So that's something to consider with Unsplash versus Pixabay. All right. And so you can do that. And those are all built in because they're connected to the internet, and it's just pulling up scenes. So I can click on this one, for example, and have that scene, but it still shows the photographer for it. So Pixabay doesn't show the photographers, and you can scroll through and you can find a scene that you like there. Let's see here. If I find, let's go to this one. I like that one. And I can right click on it and we can do edit. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make it fill. And so it's full screen there. And it almost looks like a cartoon image, as crazy as it is, which it may be. It may be like more of a painting or a drawing or something like that. When you look at it full screen, that's what it looks like, right? And so if I go back and I do some filters, if I go to filters and I blur it just a bit, there's that. And that's what it's looking like right now. I'm going to darken it up a bit as well. So I'm going to go to the brightness We're going to pull the brightness down enough to where we can make out what's going on back there. And that's what it'll look like there. All right. And this is kind of like being able to make your own PowerPoint presentation on the fly, okay, using this program, which is very cool. All right. So those are the options you can use. So we checked out what it's like to use Adobe Express, Canva, Unsplash, and Pixabay. Let's keep going through our presentation. All right. And I'm going to go to the next point, and that has to do with additional Bible versions. All right. So I recommend getting XML Bibles because XML Bibles do not require you to go online to get them. Now, the first step is let's understand what this is all about, because FreeShow does have built-in Bibles. And if we go into FreeShow and we click on scripture down at the bottom, it pops up and you can say new scripture. And the first option you're going to see is a globe with an API up under it. And then you've got a local with a Bible with the word local up under it. So let's start with the API Bibles. And these you can do a search for your particular language. You can do them for the particular type of version of the Bible that you want. And you can see if it's there. All right. So if I type in English, we got the World English Bible. I'll finish typing it out there. We've got the British edition. We got all those different versions. Let's do New International. Nothing there yet. Okay. I see New American. If I can spell it properly. Here we go. So New American Standard Bible, 1995 and 2020. So we can click on one of those and it'll turn white. And that means that we actually have that Bible now in FreeShow. So if I close this out and I scroll down, you'll see all these little blue Bibles here, these little blue Bible icons. And we're going to be looking for the New American Standard Bible 2020. I've got it right here. So that means I can click on that and it'll automatically filter in that version of the Bible for me to search through and add to the show. So I can double click any of these here and I can click on them and they would actually be added to the show. Okay. That's one way to do it. So the next way to do it is to actually get XML Bibles. XML Bibles are, if you hit the new scripture button down here and click local, you get an option to say, which do you want to import? You want to import supported formats of XML or JSON files, which are FreeShow files, right? And so we want to say XML, and you can pick Zephania. That's the one that I've used the most, but then it's going to give you this option to import local files. So you would have to click on import local. And then if you go to documents, on my computer, I've got mine saved here as Bibles XML, and I would pick the different XML Bibles. And I've got the Message, I've got Amplified, I've got New King James Version, I've got the New Living Translation, and the New American Standard Bible. All right. And then the English Standard Version as well. Now, I can tell you where you can find those. So if we go back out, okay, and let's go to here. If you go to GaryBJr.com, you'll go to my website. You can download all of those Bible versions by going to the products and scroll down, and you'll see, let's see here. So this one is the Bibles here. So XML Bibles at the very top right now, you'll be able to see that, and you'll be able to download those XML Bible files. And so you'll say view product, and you'll just say get now. All right. And when you say get now, you get access to all these. So NIV, ESV, MSG, the Message Bible, NLT, the New Living Translation, Amplified, Classic, the Bible, NASB, and then the New King James Version. And once you get it now, you'll put in your email address. It's completely free, and you'll be able to download that particular set of Bibles. And then you would go into FreeShow with your download. So wherever you save those downloads to, you would say import, and it will allow you to select those Bibles and import them. All right. Now, what some people do is they'll go to File, and they will go to Import at the top. And this is more for different types of files that are not scriptures. Okay. So you got shows and projects. We'll talk more about that later on, but this is not where you will want to import your Bibles, if they're XML Bibles, you would go down to the bottom where it says scripture down here, and then you would select new scripture and select local. And this means it's going to be saved to your computer and you can use it anytime, whether you're connected to the internet or not. And that's important. Okay. So that's the Bibles. Let's look at the next thing we need. So what if you've got some previous song lyrics, right? So from your past program that you used to use, whether it was OpenLP or ProPresenter or Easy Worship or something like that, that gives us where we were just a second ago. All right. And so if you have previous song lyrics and you want to bring those in, okay, let's go to what that would look like. All right. So the first place you would go is up to the top in FreeShow, and you would go to File and you would say Import. All right. And then you would pick which type of file they are. And so they wouldn't be a FreeShow file because you're new to FreeShow. So you wouldn't worry about that top line, but it may be a text item. So it might just be a text file, right? Or maybe you've got your songs in a Word document, or maybe you just exported them from your program and they're in the program file version. So OpenLP, for example, Easy Worship, OpenSong. These are some of the options you have. And you would just simply click on that particular option and then find the files that you've saved that were exported from that particular type of program. All right. And now real quick, I noticed that there was a misspelling on my lyrics here. So I'm gonna just show you guys a quick tip. When I made that slide, it's showing that it says export form previous, but I wanted to say from previous. So this is just gonna be a quick tip to where it's showing how to edit. I'm gonna click on edit up here and I can just go in here and change the spelling for that particular slide and go back to show at the top. And now it's spelled correctly. And so when you look at it now, I have to go in to FreeShow and hit refresh. And now when you look at it, it's export from the previous program. All right. The next thing that's going to be a helpful tool for you, this is important. This one is called NDI tools. Some of you may have heard of this before. I love NDI because what it is basically a wireless connection from one computer or one device to another. This is unbelievable when you think about how many HDMI cables you might have to run to get a signal, or how difficult it might be to connect an iPad or a phone or something like that to your computer. You don't have to do that when you get NDI. It also allows you to connect to other software and other programs and things like that. So I would recommend you get NDI, and you would just go to the internet and do a search for NDI tools would be my recommendation. And when you do that search, what it's going to do is it's going to pop up this website for NDI, and it gives you the option to download the Windows version or the Mac version. Depending on the type of computer you got, that's what you would pick. But let's look and see what comes with it. So for Windows, you get all these different programs, all right? And so you get the Access Manager, the remote, the router, the test patterns, the studio monitor, the webcam, screen capture, and the bridge. Those are all included. And then it's got this, the plugins, okay? Bringing audio into your software, present video with the VLC, Premiere Pro plugin, bring IP content into your production workflow. For the Mac, these are the options you have. So you get the video monitor, the access manager, the scan converter, the virtual input. That's a big one. The test patterns and the router. Now, I did not see a virtual input for the Windows version, which maybe there's another way to do that, but I love the virtual input. And then it also comes with some plugins for Final Cut and Premiere Pro as well. All right. And then notice here that they do have mobile apps. All right. So you can actually get NDI for your mobile device, and it's called HX Camera. And so this is the easiest way to live stream the easiest live stream camera you'll ever use. You can actually download this to your device, whether it's an Android or iOS, and it'll let you connect through the network, whatever network your phone is on. It can send the camera signal to it wherever you want it to be. So it can send it to OBS or to FreeShow or wherever you want to send it that's receiving the NDI signal. All right. So that's NDI. That's a big deal for those who want to be able to wirelessly connect to other programs and other software. I've worked in some ministries and served where we had 2 to 3 different computers in the setup. And with those 2 to 3 different computers, what we did was we had one computer that showed the scriptures. We had another computer that managed the live stream. And the computer that managed the live stream, we ran it through OBS, which is our next point. So I'll bring that up. So we ran it through OBS, and we got the scriptures from the other computer through NDI, from one computer to the next, and it was completely wireless. And we just made sure that in OBS, we looked for the NDI signal from the other computer, and we made sure to include that into our live stream. And that's how simple it is using NDI. And OBS is a great way to use it. So let's look at what it looks like to download OBS. All right. And so let me find my mouse here. All right. So OBS is another program that is completely free. NDI, completely free. With OBS, I just typed in the words OBS in my Google search, and it's the open broadcaster software. When you click on it, similar idea, similar options where you would pick whether you have a Windows or a Mac or a Linux computer, and you would simply download it. All right. And what OBS allows you to do is to basically have this production suite software in your computer to where you can set up your own scenes and add your own sources to it, right? So you can add in video sources, you can add in FreeShow as a source, you can add in audio sources, and then you can send it out to a live stream. You can record it. You can set it as a virtual cam to where you can make whatever it is that you've set up as your scene with all those different sources all stacked up. You can make that into a virtual webcam and send that into something like Zoom or StreamYard or something along those lines as well. All right. So OBS is a nice, helpful tool to have as well when we're using FreeShow. So it interacts with FreeShow by connecting through NDI would be the best way I would recommend to use it. And you can send your NDI stream to your presentation to OBS. And then you can also send cameras into your computer, route those through OBS in one of your sources. So you have a FreeShow source, and then you have a camera source that is, your video source, and you can actually layer those on top of each other to where you can make FreeShow look like a lower thirds, and then you can have OBS have the background be a video, and you can send that out to the Facebook or YouTube or whatever the streaming platform that you want to use in terms of social media, maybe to your own website, wherever it is that you want to send that signal. All right. So very helpful to have OBS. Another helpful tool to have is a mobile phone, all right, or a tablet. Now, you might say, well, Gary, why do you need a mobile phone or a tablet with FreeShow? And here's the reason why. The mobile phones and tablets in FreeShow can function as remote cameras, for one. That's a cool deal. The other thing they can do is they can function as remote screens. So you can literally use your iPad as a screen to control your show. You can use your cell phone as a screen to control your show. And let's look at how to do that real quick. So if I go to, and I'm going to pull up my cell phone here. I got my cell phone right here. Let me pull it up so you can see. I got my cell phone. That's my beautiful wife that was on there. All right. So I'm in OBS. If I go to settings, I can go over to this option that says connection. Okay. And I've got a presentation going that you guys have been watching, but I can go to connections and I can turn on the ability to remotely manage my show. I can turn on a stage display show. I can turn on the ability to control my show and or just see the output of my show. Okay. And so let's do the output, for example. And this can be helpful if you have people in different locations, and all you have to do is turn it on so it's activated, and the computer has to be on the same network as the device that you're watching it on. And I'm going to take my phone, I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to turn on the camera, and you'll see why in a minute here. And so I've got this output show option. I got to click on that word, and a barcode comes up. So I take my phone, and you can see I got my phone here. I just scan that barcode and click the link that pops up. And let's see what happens here. I'll close that. And my phone is actually searching on the internet right now. So it's doing a scan. All right. So it popped up a black screen. If I go to OBS and I click on another screen, let's see here. There you go. You'll see the show actually pop up on the screen there. All right. And so I can see the words OBS. I can see to live stream for free. And then when I can go back and I can see it automatically will change to where it'll say NDI tools, and I can go back again and it'll show up and it'll just basically stream your show to your phone. All right. So this is what it would be like to connect to a mobile device. All right. And so this is what it looks like. I've got it there. It's showing up on my screen, but maybe you don't want to just see the screen. You don't want to just see it. You want to actually try to remote and control. You can go back to your settings and we can turn that off, and let's go to remote show and turn that on. And I'm gonna go back to my camera. Let's go into the camera. First, you have to enable it, and then you can simply click on the word remote show. A barcode comes up. I take my phone and I scan that barcode. Okay. And then my phone says, what's the password? You can't see that, but it says, what is the password to this particular access you're trying to get into? So I close that, and you'll see here, it says remote show password, and it'll give you whatever your password is. And this one is set to 8208, and you can change that to whatever you want. And so if you plan to use it a bit, I would make sure to change it to something that's unique to you. But I'm gonna put in 8208, and I'm gonna say, remember me, and submit. And what happens is I can see my show project, and my show project says minimum items needed and 2 helpful tips. So I can click on that. And now I'm gonna go to the show so you guys can see what's going on. I can literally change from my phone. So I'm gonna tap on my phone so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So I'm gonna tap XML Bibles and check out what happens on the show. I'll tap OBS, and that's what happens. So you can literally control your show from a mobile device, in this case, a cell phone. This is an iPhone 13 mini. So it can be any device that has access to the internet, Android or iOS, and you'll be able to access your whole shows, your projects and everything. I can back out. Let's see here. I can actually clear out the whole show. So I can go to clear all and watch what happens. It literally blanks out the whole show. Okay. I can go back and turn it back on. And we were talking about phones and tablets, and I can tap that, and that's what shows up, phones and tablets. Okay. And this is probably one of the coolest features of FreeShow when you're using a mobile device, is to be able to control the show. So you can literally be part of the media team and control the whole show while you're working the camera, making sure that you're good, and just switch the slides to the lyrics, or switch the scriptures, as long as they're part of the show. All right. And I'm going to go to, let's see here. Let's go out of here to the project. And if I were to go back, I can go to another show if I want to. So let's go to the minimum items that we talked about in the last module. So I can literally change the whole show. So this is now the minimum items needed to start with FreeShow that we talked about in our last module. I can also go back out and go to the helpful tips or helpful items that we need, which is what we're talking about right now. All right. And I can control all that. I'm doing all that from my phone, which is really cool. And that is from the settings, using the connections option, and you would turn on remote show by clicking the blue button, making it blue. And then you simply click on it. It brings up the barcode or the scan code. And then you would just take a picture of it, and it'll ask you to put in your photo, or put in your password, for the remote show. And you set up your output for your remote show, or for your output show. So if we did the output show, it would just be the primary show, but you can click that and change it if you wanted to, if you have multiple different types of shows. Okay. But this is really cool, a really cool feature to get started with FreeShow, to understand, have a mobile device or a tablet just in case you need it. If you need to be remote and you need to be somewhere testing out the sound or something like that in the middle of the service, you can still control the show and switch the slides as needed. All right. Now let's go back into our presentation. Another helpful item to have in FreeShow before you get started with it is to have, we talked about the phones and the tablets, but a camera for your video backdrop. Okay. This is important because what it allows you to do is to use your camera, whether it's a camcorder, a PTZ camera, a cell phone camera. It allows you to use it as a backdrop for your particular media. So this is some kind of grunge background. It's kind of like a distressed wood of some sort or something like that. This could be a video of me in the background as well. And let's see how to do that. All right. So if you go to media, in your drawer at the bottom, I'm on the media tab or the media drawer. I can go to cameras, right? And any cameras you have connected to your computer will show up. And so this is my cell phone. Okay, so you can see my cell phone here, and it is literally videotaping what's going on. And you can see my messed up desk, and you can see the screen I've got in front of me there. It's a little mind job there. I've also got a YOLO box, and I've got a real camera over there connected to my YOLO box. All right, and so this is a cool feature of FreeShow. I'm sorry. And so this is what it looks like. You can make a camera feed be your backdrop in FreeShow, and it can be as simple as a cell phone. All right, and that's my cell phone camera. Now the other option you have is you can pick. In this case, I've got a webcam as well, so I can make my webcam. And so this is the camera on my laptop being my backdrop in FreeShow. And all I did was simply click it, and it makes it into my backdrop. And this would be visible to the whole church. So you probably wouldn't want to use a webcam, but act like this is some other camera, like it's a camcorder or it's a PTZ cam or something like that. And maybe this is showing the worship team real time, right? And it's connected to your computer. You will be able to access it from FreeShow. Okay. So this is a really cool feature to have if you want to have this active or moving video backdrop to your scenes. Okay, so I'm gonna put my backdrop back on by just clicking on any of those others. And so now, camera for video backdrop, if you've got one set up, you can connect it to your computer. So let's say you had a different device. Let's say you had a camera that is a mirrorless camera. You would need a capture card, okay? And a capture card is literally, it doesn't look like a card, but it's a device that you would connect to it. I've got one here. This one's like a $20 capture card. And it's just a dongle, and it connects to my computer through USB-C. The other side of it is HDMI. All right, so this is an HDMI connection that will come out of my camera with an HDMI cord into this USB capture card, and I would plug the other end of the capture card into my computer, and it would give me a video signal. All right, so you can use that to connect your mirrorless cameras, your camcorders, and even if you're a PTZ camera, if you're using HDMI for that, you could as well. Most of the time, those are running on some type of controller, and you can run that into your computer if you need to as well, probably through USB. The next thing is, if you don't want to use these kind of capture cards, you can use an ATEM switcher. All right, I'm currently using an ATEM switcher right now. Let's see if I can show you that. So the ATEM switcher allows you to connect your camera. All right, and I'm just using my cell phone here. I got my cell phone here to show you guys. So you can connect your cameras to it in the back. So I got these are my screens actually in the back of my ATEM switcher. But you can use that, and you can connect up to 4 cameras, and you can switch between those cameras, right? So I can switch between what I've got going on by clicking on those buttons, and it'll allow you to switch between those. And the cool thing is this can act like a big capture card to where you can actually connect this to your computer with a USB-C cable directly to your computer, and it'll work like it is a particular capture card, right? So how many cameras you have connected, 2, 1, 2, 3, or 4 cameras, you can actually use those as one single input into FreeShow. It would show up down here as Blackmagic Design, ATEM Mini, and you would be able to click that, and it would be your backdrop, and you could still have your slides showing up. Typically in that case, you would have your slides showing up. Excuse me, by the way. Typically in that case, you would have your slides showing up as lower thirds when you have a official video. And so you would have the scriptures or the lyrics showing up at the bottom. All right. And you'll have the camera running. Okay. Now that's a nice thing to have. Not a requirement, but a nice thing to have in terms of getting video feeds into FreeShow as a part of your presentation, whether you're just showing it in-house or you want to send that signal out to like OBS or something like that. The switcher, the capture card, the cameras, all those will come in handy for something like that. Okay. The next thing that you need to consider to have is music. So FreeShow does not include music for you to use if you wanted to play music in the background, while slides are going or something along those lines. So what you do is you need to find a way to get some copyright free music. So you might go to YouTube and get some copyright free music. You may go and subscribe to a particular service. I subscribe to a program called Artlist. This is an online service that allows me to have access to copyright free music. And you can use that music by downloading it to your computer, just like we did. We downloaded those backdrops. Download them to your computer, save them into a folder, maybe call it copyright free music or whatever it is, or just put it in a music folder. And then you would go into your FreeShow program and you go to audio and you can say new folder, and you would just pick where your music is going to come from. And I've got a Christmas album that I like, and you can say open, and basically what it'll do is it'll pull all that music in. So I've got my music folder here. There's that Christmas album. All that music is available because I have it basically in an MP3 format or a WAV format. And then I've got some other music. You can turn any song you want into a playlist. So you can say new playlist, and my new playlist is here. And let's see here. Actually, it made the whole Christmas album into the playlist there. But if you wanted to make a whole new playlist, you can go to all and click on new playlist, and then you can start dragging items in, right? So I've got the Christmas playlist here. I've got new beats here. And if I wanted to add more to it, I can just add those tracks to it. Okay. And so if I were to go to my music, and here's Dreams, this is some music. These are some different things. I'm not much of a musician, but if I wanted to put this particular music file into my new beats, all I would do is just drag it over. And now 1104 Monroe is right there in the new beats folder. Okay. And it's ready to be played in FreeShow. And so now let's talk about how to play music in FreeShow real quick. This is a really cool feature. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to remove that because I don't want that in there. Right. And so if you want to play music in FreeShow, it's there. You simply click on it and it'll begin to play. And a lot of people may ask, how do you make it continue to play in loop? You would just go down to the bottom and you just hit this little loop icon. This looks like a little double circles that are kind of spiraling around each other. You click that, and these 4 songs will continue to play nonstop until I come in and I stop them. Okay. And they don't have to be tied to any particular show. You can make them tied to a particular show, but it's easier for me at least to manage them just by letting it loop down here. And I can control the volume on the right side by turning it up and down from here, all in FreeShow. And if you have this connected, your computer connected to your soundboard, you'll be able to get that audio signal directly into your soundboard and have a decent song playlist playing all from your computer. So the operator that's running FreeShow can control the music that's being played, not necessarily the instruments, obviously, but the music being played that's going into the soundboard for the house. Okay. So copyright music is a nice thing to have when it comes to getting started with FreeShow. The other thing that's nice to have is ministry logo files. And I'm giving you this list of helpful items because before you get started with FreeShow, it's nice to know where all this stuff is so that you can just start plugging it in. Okay. You can just start dropping it into FreeShow as I'm showing you so that you can use it. All right. So ministry logo files are good for overlays. I had someone today, I was talking on FreeShow Friday. If you haven't checked it out, make sure to check it out. Every Friday, I try to do my best to have a show at 11 a.m. Eastern time where we talk about FreeShow and the latest and greatest and things that are going on with it. We get to answer questions and do some live demos and things like that. So when it comes to the ministry logo files, if your ministry has a logo, you can go into overlays. And someone literally asked about this today as of this recording, and we created this logo file. So if I click on, I went to overlays, okay, going down to the drawer, I click on overlays, I can go here and I can click on this lower thirds that I made, and it literally is just my logo. So I'm gonna go back so you guys can see what'll happen. When I click on it, check out what happens. It just puts my logo up. I can go back and forth through slides and it just stays there, right? These are all the slides we saw earlier. They now have this logo embedded on them for some reason, and that's because that's what I put as an overlay. And this is where your ministry can put their logo into it as well. And so let's talk about how to edit that, right? So you would simply go into your overlays and you can right click and you can edit it. But the first thing you got to do is you got to say new overlay, okay? And so what I did was I clicked on new overlay and it'll bring you to a blank overlay like this. All right. So if I click on this one, nothing happens. If you notice nothing happens on the screen. It's nothing there, okay? So you would end up with something that's called unnamed logo or unnamed period overlay. You can right click on it and you can rename it. So you can call it church logo, whatever the name of your ministry is if you want to. A lot of churches have abbreviations, so you can call it an abbreviated name of your church. And you can right click on it and then you can click edit. When you get here, you're going to be faced with a blank screen, and you can put in any type of item you want to as an overlay, but we're specifically talking about your need for a church or ministry logo that you have already on file, right? And so you would go to the media option here. This is under items, which it defaults to, and it gives you a box to add in some media. On the right side here, this is our I'm going to call this kind of like your control panel where you actually can see the outputs and control when you're doing some edits. We get choose media, and you go and you will find your ministry logo, wherever that may be. And so I've got under documents, I have, let's see, I've got my logo under my website. So Gary B. Jr. logo. And if you're doing a logo, I would make sure it's a PNG version of it to where it doesn't have a backdrop, right? If you've got it as a JPEG, you'll see the white box around it if you got one. But if it's a PNG, so I'll do the one that's in white. So I've got this logo here with white. And in terms of as opposed to an orange junior, it's just a white junior. And then I'm going to just squeeze this in so it's more of a square around it, okay? And then I can just drag the corners, right? And I'll pull this one up to the upper right because we already got one for the lower left. I'll put this one in the upper right corner. And this is pretty common. You can put it in pretty much any corner you want. It's completely up to you, but I've got this one now. So I can go back to my show and I can go to my overlays, and it's called church logo. And when I click it, it should show up on my screen there. So you'll see it now at the upper right, and this could be where your church logo would be as well. But if I didn't have my logo files ready, I wouldn't be able to do that right away. So I'm saying, grab your ministry logo files, put them in a folder, and you can organize these in any way you need to because you may have music, you may have lyrics, you may have videos, backdrops, you may have flyers, announcements. All those can be separate folders, and you can literally point to every single one of those folders in FreeShow. But when it comes to grabbing your logo for an overlay, you don't have to find the folder and route FreeShow to it. You literally just find the file, right? So that PNG file you would actually connect by hitting new overlay, and then it will bring up a blank overlay, and then you will right click and edit that overlay to add in your logo like we did here. All right. And when I click, you would actually go to new overlay, and it'll pop up an unnamed overlay, and then you would edit it by right clicking, and then you'll be able to add in your logo, and it'll be there, or you can take it away by simply clicking on it as well. But it'll be there throughout your entire show. Right. And so ministry logo files are good. Another option is a Gmail account for your cloud sync. Okay, so if you use cloud sync or you want to cloud sync your account to where you and other people can update and add files and things like that to FreeShow, you would simply go to your settings. So I went to my settings up here in the top right, and then you got an option that's just called cloud. And when you do that, it's going to give you some instructions. It says you have to provide your own free Google API key so the program can automatically upload files to your Google Drive. All right. If you continue through the module, I'll make sure to include the Cloud Sync video I made for YouTube in this particular module. But you would turn on automatic sync, and it would ask you to put in a key, but it'll walk you through the steps that it takes to actually make your own Google API key to where you would have a dedicated quote unquote email account that is synced up with FreeShow. Right. And you would just use that, and you would actually have access to update it and have it synced up with the cloud. It's good for a backup, but it also allows you to have other people use that same account and go in and have access to those files as well. All right. And then, so we talked about the Gmail account, and then there's a new feature that's called the Planning Center login. And so the Planning Center is another program. If your ministry uses it, then you can actually sync that up with FreeShow by simply going to the settings again. And I believe it's it's not in other, maybe it's in connections, right? So if you go to connection, you got an option that says Planning Center, and you would simply click, and I'm gonna say disconnect, and you would just hit the option that says connect to Planning Center, and it'll ask you to put in your login information, and it'll take you through, and it'll allow you to connect your planning center, and it'll put in, if you've got any plans or services or anything like that, it'll sync all that up with FreeShow, right? And that's a pretty cool feature as well, okay? So those are all the items that you would need. I say need, that would be helpful. You don't need them. We got the necessities already. Those are the minimum items needed, but this particular module is about things that are nice to have for you to really get the most out of using the FreeShow program.